Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. For today's video, we have a special breakdown covering over our Wyckoff schematics of Bitcoin, analyzing the current price action that we're seeing today, because I do believe that we are about to be taking a Wyckoff reaccumulation before we get that next breakout higher. We're also going to be taking a look at the total market cap 1, 2, and 3, because we are at a very important shifting point for all of these, and I need to break down exactly what this means moving forward for the price action of not only Bitcoin, but for altcoins as a whole. If you find any value in this video, please do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, and if you want to see anything I'm investing in long term, links are in the description. Go ahead and sign up on my website for my private group. Now, right off the bat, guys, as we're jumping into the price of Bitcoin, I wanted to start out by talking about Wyckoff, because I do believe that this is exactly what Bitcoin is going to be doing over the next little while. Now, the problem that we've had for Bitcoin and what I've been updating you guys extensively with has been this prior all-time high. I've known that we've had to get above this prior all-time high and really hold a breakout if we were going to be bullish, and we've been unable to do that. We currently just rejected off of that level, closed bearish below it, and we're starting to get continuation of the bearish sense. So as it stands, the current price action of Bitcoin is bearish. We have successfully broken from our main level that we were watching for, right around here at basically 67K. We have successfully broken out. We have successfully broken down from this level, unable to hold the bigger breakout above 69,000, and it does look like we're going to be revisiting lower support levels. So when I'm looking at the price of Bitcoin, all it reminds me of is your typical Wyckoff type accumulation. Now, this is something I've already updated you guys quite a bit with, because we've been watching for the potential where Bitcoin ends up falling for one more low and comes all the way back down to about 60K. This would be the low end of our range, because if you guys know, the very lowest point that we ended up bottoming at right over in here was $57,000. So for us to bleed all the way back down and come and revisit that same level, you're going to be hovering right around that 60K mark. You could even technically see a small break below that level. You know, I wouldn't be surprised to see either of those scenarios. The big thing that I want you guys to be aware of is inside of a Wyckoff reaccumulation, sometimes this secondary impulse to the downside can be kind of slow and drawn out, and it might just be a slow bleed until we get all the way back down to that support. The thing about Wyckoffs is they're designed to shake out all the weak hands. It's a long-term consolidation pattern that really just chops everybody out before we can take that next leg up. And I honestly think that that's where we're starting right now. Because we were unable to hold the breakout up here at 67K, it does look like we're going to be revisiting lower support levels. The first support is basically 64, but to be honest, guys, since we were unable to hold the main level being like 67K up here, I honestly don't necessarily think that we're just going to come right to 64 and then just bottom. I think that that's unlikely. And it's more likely that we're going to revisit all the way back down to this low support range at basically 60K. So that's what I'm going to be watching out for with Bitcoin. But when we come over and look at the total market cap, this is also going to be at a very important point. Now, when we're watching the total market cap, we retested this lower high from our bear market, and that was when we expected to see a reversal. We saw that reversal. We went all the way back up to the range highs, but we've been unable to hold the breakout. We've now successfully broken back below that prior support. So this that was holding is no longer holding, and this is now a shifting point for the market. So I do think that we're at the minimum going to revisit the low end of the support. But most likely, guys, if we're looking at this entire cycle breaking down from the support, and if we're looking at Bitcoin potentially coming all the way back down to like 57 to 60K, somewhere all the way back down to the low end of the support, then we could be looking at a very real potential where this thing makes a little bit of a deeper pullback. And I'm not going to be the least bit surprised to see that. You know, we could be looking at something like this before we ended up getting that next breakout. So this is kind of what I'm leaning towards, guys. It does look like we're going to get one more shakeout to the downside before this move is over. This is going to end up looking like some type of ABC, and there is a potential where this drags down a little bit lower and even comes back into support where we were at right before the ETF approval. This is going to be taking us to the low end of our range from this consolidation of our bear market, right? Because we've been just inside of this range at this point. Up to this point, we've been sitting on it as support. So if we were to lose this, I wouldn't be surprised if we made a pullback all the way back down to the low end of that range, kind of give us the completion of this big picture ABC before that would start the next move to the upside. This is something that we've been watching for. I didn't think it was as likely because we were sitting up here into, you know, the range highs. But now that we're losing this support, you know, you got to play it level for level. It's very obvious to tell that Bitcoin is unable to hold these higher levels up in here because every time we've tried to break out of 69,000, we've been unable to hold it. So with us unable to hold this, with us actually falling lower, I do think that this presents the opportunity for shorts in the market. We're going to be looking at altcoins ultimately trending lower for a little bit. If Bitcoin were to come all the way back down to this 60K level, then certain altcoins are going to make lower lows. There's a lot of altcoins that I'm watching that are kind of just sitting on their last lines of support, and that's where we're going to see those start to fall. We're going to see those make lower lows, and Bitcoin in and of itself will just kind of slow bleed back down to this support. Bitcoin doesn't have to make a huge lower low for the rest of the altcoin market to get absolutely demolished. And that, in my opinion, is kind of what we're seeing in the total market cap. The total market cap looks like it could see a little bit of a sizier drop, and I think a lot of that is just because of the altcoin market. We can come and actually look at the total altcoin market cap, and this is what was giving me a little bit of encouragement with the altcoins that we would end up reversing, was the fact that we had actually broken out from our descending resistance, and we were just consolidating on it as support. But the problem is, you know, the price is getting closer and closer to that descending resistance. It's looking like we're actually going to be closing back within it. And if that happens, we're going to be looking at us revisiting the low end of the support at like 960 billion. We might see a short-term bounce, but most likely that's going to be producing a lower low as well. So big picture, if we're looking at the altcoins making a decent move to the downside, you know, we don't really have anywhere for the altcoins to go necessarily until all the way back down at this prior consolidation that we were at. Because if you guys remember, when we first started breaking out for the altcoins, we broke out of this resistance right here, and then we sat on top of that as new support. We consolidated on that level for about a month before we ended up making that next breakout. So if we're going to lose this breakout up in here, because keep in mind, we already tagged the top of this lower high. So we hit resistance, then we saw our pullback. The question has always been, okay, well, is this the ending of the pullback, or are we going to end up seeing one more low? Because we had already seen the potential of a completed ABC correction right here. We came right back down, retested the low end of this range from our lower high, and then we were kind of just stuck in between both of these. But the problem is, once we started to actually close back below this descending resistance, it showed that this was a false breakout. You know, ultimately, the only reason this even happened was because of the Ethereum ETF. ETH broke out, it pulled the entire market cap of altcoins up with it, and so the total market cap ended up breaking out as well. But the truth is, you know, with ETH unable to hold this breakout, with Bitcoin unable to hold the breakout up here, with them both closing back below resistance, I honestly think that this presents the potential where this thing is actually going to be going for one more low. And we very easily could be revisiting this same sort of consolidation around 750 billion. You know, I don't think that we have to go all the way to the bottom and retest the exact highs of that consolidation. But for us to even come back down, maybe we just tag the top at like 818 billion, or maybe we come back down and get a lot closer to the top of that range. I'm kind of leaning towards somewhere in between that consolidation before we get our bottom. And that's just if we end up closing back below this resistance. Because guys, if we close back below this resistance like we pretty much are right now, it shows that this is a false breakout. It shows that the bulls were unable to hold this breakout and get continuation, and it really just signals weakness. And so if we're going to close all the way back within this resistance, we're looking for a sizable drop to the downside. I mean, from where we're at right now, if we were to revisit just the top of our last high, you're looking at about a 21% drop. If we were to come all the way back down to like the mid-range to the low end, you're looking at like a 28 to a 30% drop. Just from where we're at right now, you know, from the very top of where we were at the range, you know, you're looking at like a 40% move. So it would be a pretty big drop inside of the altcoins to see that. But like I said, guys, if we're not going to be able to hold this breakout right here, that's what I'm expecting. If the prices were to get a buyback right here, we were to hold it, then we could talk about something different. But until then, we just have to play it level for level. We really don't have another support until 818 billion. And I do think that that's where, at the minimum, we'd be heading to. And we could, if we're going to be breaking down and making a lower low, we could have the very real potential where we end up coming back in with our prior consolidation. You know, coming over here and looking at the total three, this is what's telling me that the altcoins themselves are a lot weaker than anything in the market. Because when we're looking at this, you know, the total altcoin market cap broke out of its descending resistance right here, and that was because Ethereum was pulling the whole market up with it. When you're when you're getting outside of Ethereum and you're looking at all of the other altcoins, they only retested their descending resistance. They never broke out, and now we're seeing even further continuation. So in my opinion, the total three for sure is going to be going all the way back down to the low end of this range. My guess is the way we end up seeing these markets, you'll have the total one that'll hold the best support. So if this thing drops, you know, we'd probably be looking at like a small correction like this before going back up, and that's because Bitcoin in and of itself would be, holding a lot better support. If Bitcoin only comes back down to retest its support, altcoins are going to make lower lows, and Bitcoin won't do that. It will just obviously keep outperforming. So Bitcoin can make this correction and still hold support, but altcoins themselves are going to be making those lower lows. So the total market cap itself, I don't expect it to have quite the same size of a drop because Bitcoin is going to be holding up a little bit better. However, when we're getting into the total altcoin market cap, I honestly think that this would, drop a little bit heavier than the total market cap, but this thing might only visit the top of this consolidation being 820 billion versus the total 3, this thing would probably come all the way back down and actually revisit the high of our accumulation range, right? We would probably be looking at this thing coming all the way back down to like 450 billion in market cap, and fully retracing that entire breakout. That is what I would expect inside of the total 3 if we are to see any sort of a breakdown, because guys, we've already kind of hit that level, right? In the total 3, we've already pretty much retested the high of that, right? We didn't come all the way back down to retest the exact wick, but we got close enough that this in and of itself is still consolidating inside of this range. So if we're unable to hold this and this thing's breaking down like it already shows, there's really no potential that I see that this just holds as support. I honestly think that we're going to be going lower and finding support inside of that consolidation in and of itself around 450 billion. So for the total 3, that would be a pretty decent drop to the downside, about a 25, 26% drop. And, obviously this is going to be kind of like that last big shakeout inside of our market cycle. So I know that this video is just going to piss off a lot of people because most people just can't assume, or most people literally just can't hear the potential of anything being bearish. So they get pissed off instantly. I've been very bullish this entire way up, constantly talking about why I believe this is the super cycle. I still firmly believe that. It's just that in the shorter time frames, the market's looking weak. We're unable to hold the breakout levels that we need. We're just playing it level to level. The reason why I stick to support and resistance is because you can just analyze when the market structure has shifted and when that point is. And we know that because we've successfully broken down from 67K, we're at a point of short-term bearish consolidation. And I do think that this ultimately leads us back down to this range low. And if we're looking at Bitcoin coming back down to the range low, I think the total market cap itself is going to be making a decent move, probably back down to about 1.94 trillion. Kind of the mid-range of this consolidation. The total market cap for altcoins, I honestly think that this thing is going to be probably coming all the way back down to 816 billion and has the potential of coming even inside of this consolidation somewhere. But my belief is that the total 3 for sure is coming all the way back down to this little green box at 450 billion. I think that the total 3 is going to fully retrace this entire move that we just made. And inside of that, we're going to get probably our last big shakeout of this cycle. A lot of people are going to be pissed off with me saying this because I've been so bullish. But the truth of the matter is this, guys. If I see something shift in the market structure, then I'm more than willing to also adapt my trading plan. We were bullish as long as we were holding above support. But the truth of the matter is we're breaking back below that. So this entire move up here is deviation. And if this is our support, chances are we're not holding that. Chances are we're going for a complete reversion and an entire lower low. All we're looking at here is another ABC correction. It's just that this is taking us into our final wave C. So what you're going to be looking at here is wave 1, wave 3, wave 4, and then you'll see one more final wave 5. Now, I don't know how high that goes or how low that goes, I should say, but I honestly think 820 billion, a retest of the prior high for the total market cap. And then for the total 3 coming all the way back down to 450 billion, that's what I think is most likely going to be playing out from here. So guys, if you found value in this video, please do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. If you guys want to see how I'm investing long-term, links are in the description. Go ahead and sign up for my VIP. Guys, we opened some shorts today. They're in profit. We're looking for a lot of downside. If you want to follow any of those inside my group, links are in the description to go ahead and check out my website. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And with that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next one. As always, peace out.